Get rid of the transcript.
It's recording.
Okay. Yep.
We're in business. Good morning, America. So I made this particular for Brainsell, Angela, and everybody on the team. So pretty much what this entails is the Sage Premium HRMS. So I made a quick deck on prospect qualification for you folks. Of course, the slide here has our contact info, but when you go into the deck, these are the table of contents that I developed. What I feel to qualify, either it's a Sage 100 payroll customer or a Sage 300, whichever you have. These are the table of contents that would help in qualifying that particular customer or prospect. So I made I got some slides explaining what the premium version is, what the HRMS HCM Capital solution is as a whole, the core products, qualifying prospects and discoveries, and I also built in a business sample needs and requirements, like a questionnaire that'll help you identify and qualify those prospects. Also a menu on how do the Sage HRMS modules help, the premium HRMS and Sage 100, and also the payroll integration. But let me go ahead and jump in here and show you what it looks like. So this slide here is pretty much telling you what the premium version is, quick snapshot. So when you're talking to those potential customers / prospects, at least you understand what the premium version is. And this is the entire Sage HRMS HCM solution. This explains what the core module does. And of course, this is a nice new image on the right here. This is exactly what it looks like, the new screen, the subscription version. What the core modules, what we have in a portfolio. So this is everything that we offer in the portfolio. Of course, they can start off with the core module and they can work their way into the life cycle here. That's a nice part about this solution with the HRMS, is that it's one of those a la carte. So you start with the core module, you can get the ESS portal, you can add in the benefits enrollments, the time and attendance. They could work their way around this grid here. This is where it starts getting into the discovery. So this is qualifying prospects and discovery. So looking at a typical HRMS prospect, these bullet items here is truly what I'm either asking or I'm looking for when I'm trying to identify that prospect. So a lot of this here, you can ask these questions. Hey, are you looking for demographic records and employment eligibility records and documents and job and compensation? 9 times out of 10, when you're working with an HR person or an individual company that does not have an HR software, this is some of the stuff they're tracking on spreadsheets that they want in their core module. And then these would be the sample questions that I would be asking as requirements, kind of like those discovery / requirements. I know Brian mentioned 10, but I went a little bit more on a rant, so I gave 15. And then I put 3 questions there about their current systems, but this is truly where you would identify and qualify that prospect. Let me know if any questions on this piece here. Does this pretty much make sense with this questionnaire? Anybody doesn't understand the terminology, like the EEO reporting and so on? Any questions on those?
Danny, do they need to have Sage payroll, or can they have this HRMS without Sage?
Good question. So they can have either or. So they can have the Sage payroll already, whether it's 100 or 300. And if they say, hey, I need an HR system, you could sell on the HRMS core module.
Right, but what I'm asking is, if they don't have Sage payroll, can they? Does this make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I have customers that have nothing, that start with HR. Then because they like HR so much, then they get the payroll. They'll ditch their third, party payroll provider, and they'll buy 100 or 300. Or sometimes I have a scenario where I have a customer that has 100 or 300, and then they're looking for HR, where this core, these questions would identify them, but a lot of it now, being that they have Sage payroll, this would synchronize data into payroll.
So Danny, this is Kevin. I got a question about one of my HRMS and 100 questions. So Angela has Sage 100, and they just asked me Sage 100 payroll. and they've got HRMS, do they need to keep Sage 100 payroll? Sounds like they do because they want to get that HRMS data back into Sage 100, but they don't need the payroll service.
Right.
Because HRMS handles the payroll service. Is that accurate?
So if they have a payroll service, you're meaning outside of 100, 300, they're using a payroll service.
No,
Outside.
that would be, yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so if they're looking to get away from that payroll service and they want the full HR and payroll, they can have Sage HRMS, HR, and the payroll module. But if you folks want to sell them, if they want to ditch that completely and bring it on-prem and have the HRMS module, and at the same time have 100 or 300, they can do that as well. They can bring it in-house. Because
would they-
the synchronization.
If they've got Sage 100 payroll, does HRMS replace that?
It does not replace it. It would just be an enhancement to it. So a lot of the stuff that they're identifying in 100 payroll, they don't have a lot of the critical HR, like the reporting that's here. They would now have that robust reporting in HR that payroll lacks.
Excellent.
So
All right. Thanks for clearing that up. I understand now. That's good. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked, because in this deck, I went as far as explaining what the modules do across the board. So this is everything in the portfolio. However, when you come to Sage 100, I had the team build actual documentation on why it's beneficial if you have 100 to now have this HRMS module. And these next couple of slides now talk about the integration of HRMS to Sage 100, or even if they have 300. So a lot of these screens explain what the process would look like. So this is the integration here. And then Sage 100 payrolling provides this for the HR customers that now talks to payroll. And then they also have this last screen here. So I put all this in here because if you have that 100 opportunity and you're getting these questions here, right here, you may jump in and start talking to them about these 3 slides here. That kind of explain right there?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. This talks about it. This opens the door to why have the complete system. And then this over here talks a little bit more about the nitty-gritty stuff, about the payroll detail setup, the job codes, the tax information. It gets more in depth in the payroll and as to why HRMS would benefit the organization. So, but yeah, I just kind of I made these slides for the team so you can understand and start asking those questions. If they don't have payroll, if they don't have Sage 100 or Sage 300 and they're just getting the core, then you would essentially be asking these questions right out the gate here. And a lot of it's reporting. So, with the HR, being that they have a true HR software, they can now do the equal employment opportunity. They can do OSHA reporting, some company and organization reports. A lot of that is already compliant within HRMS. The payroll modules don't have those. So that's why it's beneficial to have that HRMS core module. Let me know if there's any questions on this sheet here so I can make it make sense.
So Danny, this is a fit for any potential client that does not have a Sage product at all, wants to bring on HR. And it's a fit for any Sage client, 100, 300 client that does not have payroll. It's a good fit. And then lastly, it's a good fit for any 100, 300 customer that has payroll. It's a good fit.
Yes. Yeah, because if you look at question number 9, what do you use for payroll? If you're starting to ask these questions, they may say to you, oh, I use ADP. And okay, well, we've had conversations in the past about Sage 100 or Sage 300. So at least you're gathering some of that critical information up front here. It's not only HR related, but it's also asking questions about payroll. Any questions? Do these questions pretty much, I mean, they're pretty straightforward, right?
Yep.
Discovery questions. If you want to ask payroll questions, I could definitely deliver some payroll questions, but I kept it more of the HR discovery questions. And then if you want to get broader in a portfolio, this is everything that we have in the HRMS core portfolio. So see, it starts with the HR core module. You can have the HRMS payroll, but if you don't have this payroll, it'll talk to 100 or 300. We have an employee self-service. So again, if they have HR payroll, HRMS payroll, if they have stage 100 or 300, the employees can log into a portal now where they can download the paycheck stubs, and they can also update HR information or do paperless forms. In that same portal, if you had the benefits enrollment, they could walk through a benefits enrollment. Did somebody have a question?
I had a quick question. Was there any industries specifically that we should maybe start thinking about marketing to, or like, you know, within our own customer portfolio that it tends to be a better fit for than others? I don't know if there's any compliance stuff that maybe any roadblocks.
So my attitude is everybody, but I tend to, so examples, Sage 100, a lot of the nursing and medical facilities that use Sage 100 payroll, they love HRMS because in Sage 100, they don't have all those critical moving parts, the HR terminologies. A lot of my manufacturing companies, restaurants, those seem to be the key targets because the amount of the employee count and also the ESS portal. So they want to have access to the electronic stubs and updating HR information. Oh, Brian got a nice grid up here.
Yeah, and that analysis that we did, we kind of identified, you know, some of the top industries that you see here on the right. But as Danny mentioned, like everybody, you know, could be a potential candidate.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, that transporting industry, I'll tell you, I'll share this. They love the core module because the backend users can have all the HR data at the click of a button. However, when it comes to the ESS portal, they don't really care for it because their drivers are not going to go on and, you know, download a stub and update HR information. They're always out on the road. They just don't use that technology. However, in the finance, property, insurance area, yeah, they want the whole shebang. They want to be able to have that employee experience online, and they're maybe looking for a timekeeping software. But yeah, my attitude is get into everyone because you'll find you may not have the whole portfolio sold, but you may have the core and some of the other moving parts in the HRMS portfolio that they like up front. And once you get them in with the core module and you get maybe a ESS portal, that opportunity now becomes a bigger opportunity down the road because now you're selling all of the add-ons in the portfolio.
Danny, could you speak a little bit to the ESS module? You know, lately it's been a huge add for a lot of existing HR customers. If you can talk a little bit about how beneficial that is and what all it does.
Sure.
And I'll give you back control.
Yeah, actually, give me just a second here. Let me, I'm one of those a show and tell. So let me, give me a second. Sorry, I wasn't prepared. Launch. Right. One more second, guys, I promise. I just had a presentation with a customer just about an hour ago in the Bahamas. They have 650 employees. They're doing everything manual right now. They're looking to go to Sage 300 payroll, bring it in-house. And the main thing was the ESS portal. They're tired of the paper checks and the paper stubs and just all of the manual processes. When I showed them this ESS portal, they were like, oh my God. One more second,
I'd be
guys.
happy to go on site if you need any help with that. If you, oh,
Let's go.
maybe over the winter if there's any help, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take it. Right, come on, screen. Let's up here. All right, it launched. Yay. All right. Let me bring this up. Come on, internet. Later. All right. Gosh, I should have had this thing already up and running. I apologize, guys. Had my image and I closed it down after the demo. Now relaunching it, it takes forever. We're in business. Okay, enough talking. Let me bring up and share my screen. Right here. And I can share. And I'm going to share this.
Uh-oh. Danny, you're on hold, it looks like. But
Allie, that's a good question too. Should definitely ask that when he comes back up.
Guys, I'm back. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, let me bring the screen up here. I have so much stuff open here. Let me know if you can see the screen. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the new Sage Premium ESS portal. If you have customers that have Sage 100, if you have customers that have Sage 300, if you have just HRMS customers with HRMS payroll, this is a nice feature to add into the portfolio. And when I say nice feature, instead of the paycheck stubs using print boss and all of those other things to get the check stubs to your employees, they all have an experience of going in online. And when they go in online, they can now view a lot of the personal data out of HR. So it's this area here in a personal profile. Instead of having the employees making phone calls and text messages and emails and paper forms, they literally come in here and now update the information online. So all of the areas that I have revealed and open up for them to make edits, I'm allowing them to do that on the portal. You know, as long as they have web access, they can do it on their phones, do it on a tablet. But the idea is let them come in here, let them update it, let it go for approval. And whoever approves this information back in the core module, this is now writing back and refreshing the core database so that HR admin doesn't have to key this in. It's refreshing it real time. If they have one of the payroll products and it's payroll related, if they update an address, it's going to go into HR, update the record. And now when they sync to payroll, it's going to update the information in payroll. So it's a nice talk through the products. They don't have to no longer key that data in because it's updating the core mothership and now passing over to payroll. They can do phone numbers, addresses, email addresses, emergency contacts. The biggest benefit with those payroll customers is right here, the pay history. So if they're using print bosses or third-party products, when they have that core module and they got payroll playing with it, and now they have the ESS, this is where the paycheck stubs come in. They can see the history, and they can also download the stubs. And they can do this on their smartphones. But this is the new rebuild of the ESS portal. I don't know if a few of you, I'm sure, Hunter, you've seen when I've demoed the older one, but this is the new and improved. So it looks a lot nicer. It's a lot more user-friendly. It makes sense. And they're using all of the real estate in the software. In the past, they would just have these two columns and all of the data was situated in the middle. But look, I mean, it's a real web page now, if that makes sense.
And this originally was Insperity, right? Before it moved over.
No, it was ours. We
Okay.
published it. It was barbaric.
Okay.
So this is, and mind you, this is still on-prem. This is still using their web server, but it actually makes sense now. I mean, you have, you know, areas now when I go in, I can understand what I'm going into. With the perpetual ESS, yes, it's a functional module, but we're up to the times now with this new premium version. You see, when you go into your current benefits, it's easier on the eyes. It makes sense. I can understand the different fields. I feel like the older version kind of it kind of talked to me like a computer. Did I drop again?
No, you're there.
Oh, okay, I
You're
heard
there,
someone
but
drop.
Insperity is the time slips stuff. Is that correct? And that's different from
Insperity-
this.
Yeah, you're right, Kevin. Insperity was the time and attendance.
Yep.
Delphia acquired them about a
Okay.
year and change ago, so now Delphia is now the publisher of the time and attendance.
Yeah, but just to understand the whole process, so an employee goes and uses Insperity or time slips to record their, to punch in, punch out. But then this is where they go, then the HRMS does all the payroll stuff, does the right thing. They get their pay, and this is where they go get their pay stubs based on what they clocked in at the punch card, at the punch time clock, right?
Correct. 100% correct. And if
Yeah.
you have the Insperity time and attendance piece, everything could be single sign-on in here. So I could have all of the menus. I don't have it in this particular install, but if they have the time and attendance, instead of launching a URL separate, it could live here in the ESS. So everything is a single sign-on. So instead of using the out-of-the-box time off, because HRMS has its own time off, we would shut this off and we would turn the single sign-on for the time and attendance. So when the employees, if they're using the actual portal to log in, everything is through the ESS. It would single sign-on into the timekeeping. They could clock in and clock out, or they could do a timesheet. Everything would be done in here. Just makes things a lot easier. Some customers don't have the ESS portal. They just have the time and attendance, so they would just be logging into the time and attendance. But if you had the whole shebang, everything would live in here. All the modules will live here. Look how nice this, they did the open enrollment process. It's an actual.
Yeah, and by the way, that's what Angemar is doing. Angemar is getting the whole shebang, and
Good.
it's really nice. One of the things that they had before was Paycom, and they said the problem there was that it didn't work, but also everything was so disjointed. It was not easy and smooth, but they're pretty thrilled with the way it's working out with HRMS and ESS and time slips, et cetera.
And listen, you and I, that was quite the setup with HRMS. I remember I started the initial demos with the core, then we started talking about ESS, and then we brought in the timekeeping. So yeah, good example.
Oh yeah, it just the more they see, the more they like, the more they want.
And Kevin, that's a good example within Brainsell is that Angmar, that particular customer, being that they have all these modules and we get everything up and running according to their processes. That's the ideal customer to have as, I would either say, a case study or a reference. Definitely want to get that particular healthcare organization as a reference because a lot of this stuff here comes into play. I believe they were a Sage 100, right? They had Sage 100.
Yeah, they still are. They still are using Sage 100 for the core accounting. Yeah.
Great example. Look at how all of this software talks to their Sage 100.
Right.
It would be the same thing if they had Sage 300. Now they have everything all in one. So I don't know if they have the benefits enrollment, the open enrollment, but here again, another example, if they
The
had
answer is yeah. They just added ESS, or they are currently adding ESS. Yeah, and they got the benefits enrollment as well. Yeah.
Yeah, everything will be done in here. I mean, I love the wizards, so they come in and they could literally walk through a guided wizard of the open enrollment. They could look at their current benefits. Maybe the company wants them to have access to organization charts. They can do that as well. So they have, this is out of the box with HRMS, the org charts. Also too, if they're using Atrix for their tax filing, you can, Atrix offers a portal itself to get the W-2s and the 1095s. So instead of the employee logging into that particular portal, you can also have that link embedded in here, single sign-on. So again, everything is in one place. So it comes with all of this out-of-the-box stuff, but you can make this thing your own. You could put in YouTube testimonials. You can put in a third-party recruiting site. Maybe they have a third-party benefits portal. They can have all of that embedded in the different areas in HRMS.
I'm sorry, I think I might have missed something. Is expense reporting in here too?
Expense reporting is not truly an HR, but my gosh, if it's something that I could build, I could put it in here. Give me a little bit more detail when you mean expense
Okay,
reporting. Give me...
so I'm just going off of what I used to use when I was in accounting for, and we use cost point because the subcontracting with governments is, they're very specific about what no cloud, no, it sits on your server. So what we had was, we had, you showed up on your personal page. It was our AP, AR, POs, our project managers were able to use it. Everybody was on this. But when you first go in, you have your basic, your personal, what's left, your time and attendance. But it also had your expense. You do your own expense reports. Of course, it goes through. HR was allowed to view it, and then you'd be paid for your expense reporting. But it was nice because it was all right there, right at the front when you first logged on to the software. It's kind of started your day. You put your time in, and oh, by the way, I picked up, something for the office, and then you jump in your expense report, you throw it in there. So it was kind of like all just right there. You weren't jumping from one program to the next, and it was just such a easy, flowy thing to do.
Right.
And it was, yeah, I loved it. And not everybody's the same, but it was just a neat feature.
No, it is, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Thank you for
Yeah.
explaining that. So if I had the HR actions, I can make a required action that's an expense report, or with the Sage time and attendance, it has a feature for expense reimbursement. So while they're going in and maybe punching and punching out or doing a time card, there's also an area to enter expense reimbursement information. And that can all live in here if I wanted.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Because you could keep,
Uh,
they kept track of your vacations also and holidays. And, if you want to put in for, what I'm talking about, when you wanted to put in for time off, that was all like, boom, it's right there.
Yeah, the
Beautiful.
Sage time and attendance, which Angmar uses, Kevin's customer, they're huge healthcare. They use the time and attendance. I don't know if they're using the expense reimbursement, but on the time card, you can have them edit time cards, you can have them update information, and there's a line item to drop down. Hey, I want to put this expense reimbursement in there, and that can all be logged and sent off for approval. Or
Industry wise, I see more engineers and project managers using it because they're out and about, they're traveling. So sorry to interrupt, but you were saying, but that for me, that was what I saw.
yeah, and you could do that. So that permission could be set. So like me and you, we would be the back office employees, so we wouldn't see it. But the employees, like you just said, when they log in here, they'll have access to that because they have that permission to get into it. Yeah, it can also be an HR action form because the Sage HRMS HR Actions, the Delphia product, that product allows you to, it comes with all of these wonderful out-of-the-box paperless forms. But if you truly want a form for expense reimbursement, or if you want them to log items, let's go ahead and make a form particular to the organization, and it could be available in here in what we will call a checklist. So it would be kind of like a required action checklist that they would now initiate that form from.
Okay.
So truly a customizable piece. That's the nice part about the HRMS portfolio, is that as long as you got that core mothership, you can have the ESS portal, you can have the benefits enrollment, you can have the HR actions with the paperless forms, maybe the onboarding or some other checklist items. All of that can now come into play because you have all of these features available in the portfolio.
I know it's getting late and I don't want to keep you too long. Allie she dropped, but she had a question. And if you just later after, you can throw the answer in the chat. She was asking, do we have analysis on where Sage HRMS wins against other HR solutions, or what causes organizations to switch from other HR solutions to Sage HRMS? So you just want to throw that in there later to let her know what the answer was to that. So I didn't want to keep too many people.
I do, and when I send it to you, don't let the deck. It's the PowerPoint deck of that is huge. It's overwhelming. It's kind of towards the end of it.
Okay.
But yes, by all means, I think there's like 20 plus somewhat slides in there. Towards the end of it, you'll see that there's like competitor information and what market to hit. Also too, why they stay with Sage or why they leave. All of that is explained in that PowerPoint deck. But yes, I'll share that with you.
Yeah, great.
And definitely, yeah, that's Brian, I forgot the name of that one. That's the Sage, I want to say the main HRMS, I forgot what they call it, but answer your question, we do have one.
Okay, good.
Great.
We do have one. And of course, any of these opportunities that you're coming into, if you need me for discovery calls, if you need me to just answer questions, or hey, it's a quick how-to, or just to get them interested, that's what I'm
Yeah.
here for.
Great.
Outside of that, I will tell, I make this thing sing. So on your demonstrations, whatever you want me to cover, let's make the sale happen.
Yeah.
I love tapping into Sage 100 and Sage 300 customers, because now that they know that we have a true HR module with all of these compliant moving parts, they're like, what rock was I living under all these years? So there's an integration out there, guys.
I would have loved this. I would have loved this product in my other industry. I just would have said, give it to me. And yeah, and then build from there. Yeah, I'm loving this. Not that I don't love Sage 300, but just talking about just the ease, especially of the self-service portal, is just amazing. It just gives people so much more freedom that they're not calling in or emailing or whatever. I just think that's incredible. Yeah.
Empower the employees, get them to self-serve.
Yeah. I think, but like
they-
you were saying, the people on the road, no, but
Right.
if you're sitting right there, yeah.
Yeah. And on the roadmap, just to share, the entire core module, the desktop application, that is eventually going away. So any customers that are on the premium version of HRMS in 2023, when they launch the full web application, that desktop executable is going bye-bye.
Okay.
Whatever the role is in the organization, as I haven't, logged in here as an employee, whatever their role is, they're now going to have all of that desktop experience now in the web application. So their menus will be situated according to employee benefits and payroll, whatever their role is, they'll now see everything in the ESS portal because everything is via the web.
Okay.
So bigger picture, that is on a roadmap.
Okay.
Also, to migration right now, if you have customers that are currently on HRMS, we have a wonderful promotion going on. So they're getting the 40% discount, the loyalty discount, which is good now until March 31st of 23. It'll then go down a little bit more. But they're getting 40% off plus whatever their M&S is. So they're getting a prorated amount for their locked-in M&S perpetual contract. So whatever the prorated amount, the remainder amount, they're getting a 40% and that for the migration.
Nice.
I've seen some of them where the dollar amount is like, oh my God, you better sign that now. Some of them, they renew perpetual and they're like, you know what, we want to go to subscription, to premium. I've seen those orders where they don't even owe anything to Sage because the perpetual was so much that it's almost a wash. It's a $0 amount. So I've run into those scenarios. But yeah, I mean, this promotion is like no brainer to migrate them to premium. And we don't have to sell everything. I'll be upfront. The HRMS portfolio is not cheap, especially when we're coming into the other moving pieces. However, when you start with the core and we implement the core and we get them to love the core, we now open the door to buying everything else. The ESS portal, the HR actions, maybe they need an applicant tracking, so on and so on. We now open that door.
Okay. But yeah, it's important to kind of find out what their needs are going to be, whether they're now or in the future, because keeping that in our back pocket, just saying, them saying, oh, we know we need payroll eventually, but for right now, can we just do base? Great. Okay, let's not forget about, the payroll. So let's revisit it again, because then they'll know what is offered for them. So it's a good start, right? Base is a good start. Yeah.
Bingo, you hit the nail right on the head with that. And the nice part about the subscription is you sell them the core, 6 months down the road, they come up to you and say, Angela, I need the ESS portal, I want the HR actions. With this new subscription model, they're no longer paying that heavy perpetual license upfront. That whole thing, that's the sticker shock,
Yeah.
When they're in the middle of a contract, that module that they're adding is now pro rata. It's going on a prorate, so it's looking at the addition date to the anniversary date. So that's the prorated amount they're paying for upfront, plus whatever the implementation.
Great example with ESS for Angmar is they wanted it, and I got the quote and all that stuff from Smartsheet, but they had to pay $1,000 That's it.
It looks
So
better.
you're right. You're totally right, Danny.
It looks better. Hey, I want to get them offline. I don't know later on, but I want to talk to you about the HR analytics. Did they get that yet or?
I think they got everything piled up there. They just
Good.
keep adding more. So I think they're already in HR analytics. Yeah.
Man, that's the ideal customer. I like them. Them and Ampex brands. They have a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Brian Delphia says that, Ampex is obviously much larger, but he says that Angmar is the more complex, is probably the most complex he's ever put together.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think with Angmar, Brian is having to rethink a lot of his practice because of the way their processes are. We probably want to implement them in HRMS.
Hey, yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah, good customer. Oh, guys, let me do a time check. Sorry, I went over.
Yeah,
I talked too
I'm
much.
gonna have to
sorry.
run. I have to grab lunch before my next 3 o'clock. But Danny, thank you so much for taking the opportunity. Other people are going to be reaching out, I think, individually. And yeah, I'd like to get going. I want to start checking these other clients and see who I feel is going to be a great fit for that. That's my next, project I want to do. I think it'll be good. And then I'll be reaching out myself. So thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Danny. Gonna drop off. Bye, everybody.
Okay.
All right.
Danny,
Thanks,
you
everyone.
gonna send us the deck on that?
Yes, I'm actually
Okay.
going to send it to you via a through link.
Okay.
Because if not, a lot of my customer partners were saying they're not getting my links. So
Okay. Perfect.
I'll send
Thank
it
you
to
so
you.
much. Really
Great.
helpful.
Okay,
Thanks.
cool.
All right.
All right.
Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Take
Bye.
care, everyone. Bye.